And we're back. What's up, everybody? Benja Welldone coming at you live on this beautiful Corona-free day. Today is Saturday, June the 12th at 10:39 in the morning. How are you doing? Let me adjust this camera just a little bit. There you go. So, heaven and aliens. What could that mean? Well, here's the thing, all right? This whole show, this whole channel, podcast, YouTube, etc., it's all to get to know me, for people to get to know me right better as a comedian. But not just that, how I draw conclusions, kind of sort of how I think, you know? And I've been having some thoughts about this lately, so, because there's so much talk about UFOs and aliens and everything. And here's another piece of information. I'm a Christian, all right? Now, here's the thing. Bringing it all together, heaven and aliens. You know, I believe that I can believe in Jesus. I'm not being too deep, but I'm just being honest with you, okay? If you want to change, go ahead. If you want to keep on listening, go ahead. But listen, there's a point here I'm trying to make, so just bear with me. I feel the resistance of wanting to get off, and this is just a recording, okay? But here's the thing. I'm a Christian, okay? And I do believe in heaven. However, I also, having outside of, in addition to all of that, okay, when I say I believe in aliens, it's not in the way that I believe in Jesus, okay? One is about my soul and eternity and everything, you know? And the other part, in my opinion, I just looked at it as a matter of factual life and science. And here's what I mean by that. Here's what I mean by factual life and science. Nowhere in the Bible, nowhere, does it say anything about people being the strongest entity in the world. Nowhere in the Bible does it say anything about people being able to survive in the woods or outdoors or in the cold or anything like that better than something else in the world. Nothing in the Bible, I can continue to go on and on, talks about people flying or breathing underwater. Okay? And with that being mentioned, nothing in the Bible says that people are the smartest entity. So, with that being mentioned, how is it and why is it not possible, being a Christian and also believing in science, you know, that it would be so out of character for me to believe that in the exact way there's something stronger in the world than, you know, people or whatever, faster, that can fly, that there's not intelligent life smarter than people. Maybe. Okay? Maybe. And I'm not going off on too much of conspiracy or anything. It's not really conspiracy. I'm just making facts. Maybe they did build pyramids. Would it matter to me in my faith? Not at all. It has nothing to do with it. Maybe, you know, I dinosaurs, they were real. Doesn't talk about dinosaurs in the Bible. Actually, kind of, but not really. I mean, it talks about, like, gigantic creature and stuff like that. But here's the thing. It's completely irrelevant. The Bible is not supposed to be a historic document about science and nature and all sort of entity and life and chemistry. No. Okay? It's supposed to be the doctrine, the document, etc. of the history of the world to present day, all the way to Revelations. The Revelations meaning the end of the world, and then eternity in heaven and so forth and so on. Okay? So it would be really naive of me to believe that just because I'm a Christian, I wouldn't be able to believe that there's something stronger than people. I'll tell you what, go in the woods with no food. See what happens. Life does it every day. Could you imagine even surviving one winter without shelter, without a refrigerator, without a place you can just drive to and buy food from. Okay? It almost is so inconceivable that every winter, all life, after the first winter, all life was killed and ceases to exist. But life is beautiful and amazing that way. Okay? Because even through the most harshest conditions, life finds a way to survive. The birds, the absolutely everything out there, they'll fly to a warmer climate. They will burrow themselves or make themselves in some sort of a sheltered embankment that they can survive the winter. They go out, they collect nuts. They know winter's coming. You know what I mean? They might hibernate. All sorts of amazing things. So why is it so inconceivable that there is not just life outside of this planet or in this planet, deep in the water, whatever the case? You see, me as a Christian believe that I believe that God created all life, and that would include aliens. That's not a weird concept. Do you know why? Because it doesn't talk about every other thing that that God created. It also doesn't talk about skyscrapers. That's not what it's about. That's not what it's about. Okay? Now, carrying on with that, you know, I made a comment to somebody the other day about just dinosaurs in general. Being a Christian and believing in dinosaurs, it's not really to believe in. Like I said, it's a different context of the word when you say I believe in dinosaurs and I believe in Jesus. Two different things. The syntax of the word sounds exactly like, the meaning is completely different. Completely different. Okay? Because realistically, I do not see how it is physically possible for heaven not to exist. From an energy standpoint, even the most brilliant scientist could admit that energy itself cannot be killed or destroyed. It just changes. So imagine energy with conscience. And then if you believe in string theory or different dimensions and stuff like these are all principles of science. Okay? And if you are a Christian and you believe in what you believe, but you also know that there is a thing called science, there are theories of other dimensions, there are black holes, okay? Why is it inconceivable, knowing, regardless of your belief system, that energy cannot be destroyed, that if your conscience and your soul, okay, could conceivably be changed, why is it possible that it could not enter into another body? Why? How? Now, the how, that's probably the biggest question of the bit, but I'll tell you one deeper. Think about this. In the Bible, it talks about heaven. In the Bible, it talks about angels. In the Bible, it talks about people. God made people. But, you know how I said earlier, it doesn't really mention anything about Bibles? What if? Here's a big what if. What if, okay, in addition to angels, in addition to people, okay, what if this world, hypothetically, I'm just making up something, was recycled and it was used on more than one occasion? Would you really be that surprised in the history of eternity, in the history of ever, that if heaven was real and you went there, there were angels, people, and all sorts of other creatures that God made? Why is that so inconceivable? Why is that such a weird thing to say? I feel like it's more open-minded than anything else. I feel like it's more naive to believe, if you're a true non-believer in Jesus, but believe that energy can't be transferred, and you believe that if there is eternity, that's going forward. That means eternity going backward. I know I'm getting kind of deep, but I'm making a point here. Why is it so inconceivable to believe, not just there's smarter, because there already is stronger and faster life than people on Earth, there couldn't be smarter entities, life, aliens. Things outdoors already collect wood. Nobody taught them how to do that. Okay? So what if they collected wood and they made an actual object? and then they started evolving their techniques, and they started getting smarter and smarter. It's completely irrelevant to my faith in Christianity as a whole. It doesn't change anything about God. And it also wouldn't change anything if heaven, which I do believe, was real, and you went there, and all of a sudden you see there's all sorts of other life. Okay? It's not inconceivable. Just because it doesn't mention in the Bible doesn't mean it's not real. And just because it doesn't mention in the Bible doesn't mean it doesn't exist or didn't exist in a future time. What if, again, me still believing in heaven, if after heaven, at a certain point, God wanted to create more life? That's what he already did once with angels. And it talks about that in the Bible. Are you just going to say, don't do that? No. How do you know he didn't do this multiple times? You see what I'm saying? The fact that God says that people are so special because they made him in his image, not meaning to be super holy and deep and whatever. If you want to change it, go ahead. But I'm just trying to get you to think, because this is how I think. Very open-minded, but it's also based in fact, in science, and in some theory and ideas, and open-mindedness and whatnot. Okay? But what makes people so special, according to the Bible, and Jesus in particular, is that they were made in God's image. Angels, if you look in the Bible, there's nowhere in the Bible that says they look anything like people. Okay? I believe it talks in the Bible about them, I think they even have like more than one head, or maybe that was like a metaphor or something like that. Why is that so crazy to think? If I said people have two legs in a world where only one head existed, where only one leg existed, it would sound strange. So, two heads. Okay, all right. If you think from a principle of logic, but you're comparing it to what is current and exists around you, it doesn't seem logical. But if you turn things around, and if you were to say hypothetically that people had two heads, and there was a book or a document that talked about people having one head, you would think that that's strange, right? So my point is this: I believe in heaven. I believe in Jesus. Okay? I am a Christian. But I also believe that God has, I'm not saying concretely that I believe this, but I believe that it is possible that he could have done it. And if he did, it would make no difference to my faith that God may have created life in addition to angels, and there's life in between angels and people. Maybe he created something else, and maybe he will continue to create something after people. But none of that is relevant to my faith. It just adds to possibilities, but as far as my faith goes, it doesn't matter. It's completely inconsequential. Okay? So that's just my thoughts on it. I thought I'd bring that up because there's been a lot of talk about UFOs and people like, would it change religion? It really shouldn't. It really shouldn't. Because if you're smart enough to just listen to me, and not that I'm smart, but I'm saying ideally, if you're just smart enough to be open-minded and listening to the ideas that I'm talking about, at the end of it, you should actually feel pretty assured. You should feel pretty calm and rested in the fact that it doesn't make a difference. Because if you believe in God, okay, if you're a Christian, okay, or even if you're not, it shouldn't change the fact that energy cannot be destroyed. Non-believers of Jesus believe in additional dimensions. Maybe that's what heaven is. Conceivably, it would have to be. Okay? And there's already life that exists. It's stronger. So it's almost naive and ignorant to think that there wouldn't be life that's smarter. Now, how you judge intellect, it's your choice. It's completely up to you. But again, it's inconsequential to my faith, to Christianity in general. Because if you gauge intelligence based off of survivability in the cold, well, it's not people. If you gauge intelligence as far as survivability for decision making, being able to save, we have a paper structure, people work for money. They work for food and shelter. Life outside of people does not necessarily need money at all in the slightest aspect. They take care of themselves. They know to save, okay? And they better be wise enough to do that for every single winter. Always got to be keep their head on a swivel, because life eats life, right? People may kill people, okay? But life kills other life, and they eat each other, right? It's pretty rare for something within its own habitat, so to speak, to eat something that is its own. So, for example, you don't really hear about bear eating bear. It does happen, but not necessarily. Your food chain is usually routinely outside of your own direct being. So a fox would not eat a fox. Birds not necessarily do not eat birds. Some maybe like a vulture, okay? But vultures don't necessarily eat other vultures. Maybe they do. I'm just propagating on it, you know what I mean? I'm just adding to the idea and discussion and whatnot. So anyway, that's all I got to say about that. It's just, there's so much stuff going on right now between life and then inflation and the economy, and now you got aliens and stuff. Just thought I'd add a little fact to belief, and just put my 2 cents in there, because when it comes down to it, I do believe in Jesus. I do believe in heaven, and I do believe that aliens exist. But they are completely just in the exact way that I believe. No, maybe believe is not like the correct word, but that was my whole point earlier. Okay? I think it's beyond transparent at this point that aliens do exist. They're not inanimate objects flying autonomously. It's being controlled by some sort of a life which is making decision making, because pilots in fighter jets are trying to track these things down, and they are avoiding them. It's not random occurrences. They're doing tactical movements and formations and stuff like that. So what does that change my belief? Not a thing. And it shouldn't, and yours either. If you're a Christian or if you're not, maybe something that I said, just maybe something that I said, will at least make you think about the possibilities of there being additional life in between aliens and people, which may be older and existed longer, which may be still alive and have been around for thousands or millions upon millions of years, that God also created. And not just that God might continue to create, because he already did that more than once. And it shows with angels. And then it shows the people, if that's your belief. And if you don't believe any of that, that's fine. But there's no denying the fact that energy cannot be destroyed. So, with that being mentioned, I'll leave a riddle inside of a mystery, and ideas and thoughts, and a little bit of dash of my beliefs. A little bit of my idea set and open-mindedness. I'll leave it to you all. Hopefully I got you thinking some pretty crazy ideas, maybe spark up some discussions, maybe not, maybe. With that being mentioned, I hope everybody has a beautiful Saturday, June the 12th. You're going to hear this after recording. But yeah, just remember, this is always on YouTube if you ever want to check me out. Benja Welldone Comedy Show. Hope everybody has a beautiful day. Thank you so much for your time. It's now 10:58, and I'm on my way to do some high-speed cool stuff. So I'm Benja Welldone. Check me out. Thanks for listening. Peace.